Hey team, this is Grant David Collins, and welcome to Basement Philanthropy, a place for people who do not want to wait until they're rich or retired to create meaning, impact, and connection with their money, regardless of the amount. On this episode, we're going to be walking through 5 micro-philanthropy projects that you could get involved with today, so let's get started. I was having a conversation with my brother the other day, and we were talking about my social media presence. Now, recently, I've really ramped things up on some of the different social platforms with different videos and excerpts from this podcast. And we were talking about how I could express what I am doing in the world in a couple words, in a small sentence or two. And he spoke into the way that he has been viewing my content is that it is a way that people can feel meaning and connection and impact in their lives today. They don't have to wait. They don't have to do something crazy. They just have to see themselves as being able to make an impact with their money, regardless of the amount today. And that really spoke into one of the biggest barriers that I run into myself and I run into with people that I work with around this concept of micro-philanthropy. And that is, we feel like we have to do something huge in order for it to be worth our time and energy. Like if it's not newsworthy, it's not worth our time and energy. And first of all, that's not true. And second of all, it really just gets in the way of everything that you are trying to create that is big and is audacious. Like those big ideas that you have to change the world, like they start with you getting involved in very small, simplistic ways that create a snowball effect to be able to build this larger and larger impact. And so as part of a foundation for this whole episode today, I want to speak into something that I have started to call the one-step principle. And that is that you can create a micro-philanthropy opportunity with really anything that you are doing in your day-to-day life by taking one step outside of whatever that thing is to think about somebody else. So an example of this might be you're on your way to the grocery store, and instead of just going for yourself, you decide to shoot your neighbor a text and say, "Hey, I'm going to the grocery store. Do you need anything?" Or you're at a car wash, for example, and you have a couple extra bucks that you've put aside for micro-philanthropy, and you think, you know what? I'm going to make somebody's day. I'm going to pay for somebody behind me. These are little things that you are involved with on a day-to-day basis. And if you take one step outside of yourself, you'll start to see that these opportunities are endless and everywhere. And so that's what I want to speak into. I want to give you some hardcore examples of things that I've been involved with recently that you could do today. Now, all of these projects are below the amount of $50. Like $50 or less can create any of these projects that I'm going to be speaking into. And all of them take less than an hour to be involved with. There is not a single person that is listening to this podcast right now that does not have access to either one of those things. And so what I would have as an invitation as we jump into this is to get off your couch, whether it's literal or metaphorical, and give. Or in other words, give off your couch. That's a new phrase that I'm testing out. I don't know. We'll see how it lands. So the first project I want to speak into involves a restaurant nearby. Now, there are a couple of different restaurants that do this. I usually see it at Panda Express, but there are multiple restaurants or people or organizations that do this type of thing. Basically, what happens is at the restaurant, when you're paying for your food, they'll ask you if you want to round up your total in order to support some charity. Now, Panda Express usually does Primary Children's Hospital, but there are a lot of different charities that combine with these organizations to be able to raise funds. So one way that you can create impact and meaning around you is instead of rounding up 60 cents, like go all out and give like $10 or $20 and see what happens. The last time I did this, pulled up to Panda Express, and I asked if they were still doing that form of charity work. And they said yes. And I said, yeah, I'd love to give $20. And the woman on the other line of the drive-thru was like, excuse me? And I said, yeah, $20. And she just like kind of lost it. And it was pretty humorous. So I pull forward, and the next window, the guy looks at me. He's like, oh yeah, you had this order and you're doing the $20? And I said, yeah. He said, man, can I give you a free drink on the house from us? I was like, yeah, sure. That's awesome. So I was feeling pretty good. And on the way home, I looked at my receipt, and not only had they given me a free drink, but they gave me a employee discount on my food. And like, I didn't walk into that situation doing that, but I had the sense that this created an energy at the Panda Express that I didn't account for. I thought it was just going to be like this little thing that I did. And man, it was awesome. It was cool to be able to go out of my way and to give. And it was also really cool to see how that impacted other people. So that's an idea that you can get involved with today on your next run to one of these restaurants that supports this Roundup charity or Roundup giving. The next thing that I would speak into, the next project, is a project that requires you to think about a book that has really impacted your life. For me, this book is actually How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen. I have a couple copies here if you're watching the video podcast of that book. And this book is really important to me because it really helped me through a career change that I went through towards the beginning of my career. And so since then, I have been buying and giving out these books to people that find themselves in a similar position. They're thinking about a career change. They're thinking about doing something different. So what I'll do is I will get on a website called Thrift Books, and I will buy used copies of this book. It runs me between $5 and $10 a book. And if I buy more than, I think, $25 worth of books, the shipping is free. And so oftentimes I'll just jump on there and buy a bunch of these books. And then I'll look for opportunities to give them out. And in that process, what I'll do is I will ask the person if they would like a book, kind of tell them a little bit of the background. And then I'll write a quick note in the front of that book telling them what it meant to me, why it was so important. And most importantly, I tell them that there's no pressure around them reading the book, that they should just see it as a sign of my support. And if the book helps them, great. But more importantly, I just want them to know that I care about them and that I love them. And so you can do this with whatever book has impacted your life. I promise you that there is something that has helped you in a time of change or of sadness or whatever that was for you. And there are so many people around you that are going through the same thing. We have this shared human experience. Why don't we use a little bit of our money, have a couple of those copies on hand of that book, and give them out to people as physical representations of our care and love for the people around us. Idea number 3 comes to us from the gas station. Now, a lot of you are feeling the expense that gas is at the pump these days. I know I am. And so it is really easy, again, to just think about, man, it costs me 60, 70, 80 bucks to fill up my tank these days when it used to cost me 20, 30, or 40. But that's all we think about. And so the other day I thought, well, what could I do to help somebody with this? So what I did is I went to the Walmart grocery store nearby me, and I went over to the gift card section. And in the gift card section, there is a spot for prepaid cash cards. I didn't just want to give out cash. I wanted to make it a little bit more secure. And so I bought a prepaid card for $25. And so I took the gift card home and I wrote a little bit of a note before I took it to the gas station. And this is what I said. I said, "Dear friend, everyone is feeling the stress at the pump right now. So here's $25 to take a little pressure off this fill up." Really simple. It's just on an index card. I stapled that note to the gift card, drove up to a gas station pump and plastered this gift card close to the pay screen with a little bit of clear tape. And the next day I showed up and the card was gone. And so that was another way that I felt like I could help somebody who potentially could be in need. So the fourth micro-philanthropy project that you could get involved with today involves a bear from Build-A-Bear Workshop. Now, a couple weeks ago, I put out a message to my following on social media, and I asked them if anybody knew of an organization or person that could use a bear. And quickly, in the matter of a couple minutes, I got a couple suggestions of different families who could use this. And so I got in contact with the mom of one of these families, and I asked her if I could build a bear for one of her children. And she said yes. But the really powerful thing happened next, where she said, hey, I've got a couple other kids that could use some help with this, because this person that you're wanting to help, they get a lot of attention because of what's going on in their lives. And it's really hard for his father and I to be able to explain and to comfort and to help these kids know why they aren't receiving the same type of treatment. And so I was super open to creating this opportunity. It actually opened the door for a couple of my friends to get involved with building bears as well. And so we went out to build a bear. We found out a couple of the things that these kids like specifically, built bears for them, wrote a quick note, and sent them off to these kids because they were too far away from a local Build-A-Bear to do it themselves. And man, it was awesome. Like all I needed was a network of people, of friends, and a little bit of information and permission, and then some time. And it all worked out. It was a really, really fantastic experience. Okay, the fifth and the final idea or suggestion that I have for you to get involved with micro-philanthropy is one that can happen on your weekly grocery store run. Now, all of us have a local food bank or food pantry that needs donations. And hunger is a real thing that happens in all of our communities. And it's sometimes pretty hidden from our view because of the different programs or the different shelters that are in place. But there's this huge need out there. And so one way that you can get involved with this in a really accessible way is to give these shelters or these pantries a call or visit their website or email them and ask what items of food that they accept or they need. And it is likely that those donations will show up on your own grocery list. And so the next time you go to the store, look at your grocery list and see which items double up as things that this food pantry could use, and then just buy extra of that thing. Now, you could just do 1 can, you could do 4 cans if it's canned food, whatever it is, but this is such an easy way, it's so low cost, like maybe $20, $30 extra in your groceries. And then on the way back to your house, instead of going to your house first and dropping off groceries, on the way back, I would drop off the food. So it doesn't just sit around. Like, it's really easy for these projects to kind of hang around. And this is a way that you can just do it, make it all one thing that you do on your next grocery run. It's just this idea of looking outside of ourselves as human beings and seeing those around us and viewing every opportunity that we get involved with as a way that we can give. So my invitation to you this week is one of acting. Look at your schedule for today or this week and see what you're already going to be involved with. And then look to create a project that is less than $50 in this. Like maybe your son has a little league practice this week, and something that you could do is maybe show up with treats for your son's little league team, not at a game, but at a practice. Like, think how stoked all the kids would be if you showed up with those incredible orange slices and some Kool-Aid jammers. Like, I would be stoked about that, and I'm almost 28 years old. So these are just little things that you could do this week. And it's the mentality. It's not even the projects that matter. It's the mentality that this starts to put us in as we learn the skill set of philanthropy. So check that out and give me a shout when you have these projects, when you have success in them. I would love to hear about them. So shoot me a message on social media through a direct message, or email me at grant@basementphilanthropy.com. I would love to hear about what you're getting involved with. And feel free to submit any questions or things that you run into as you're working through some of these opportunities that are in front of you this next week or so. The last thing I would ask is for you to rate and comment on this podcast. That's perhaps the biggest way that you can be involved with spreading this message, is by leaving a review about this podcast. How's it been? And I'm not going to tell you that it has to be 5 stars. Like, maybe it's not. Maybe you see a big opportunity for me to upgrade this show. Man, I would love to hear that. And if you find value in this, I would also love to hear about that experience so that I can keep building on that. And there are likely people in your network who are feeling some of these things that we've talked about today and want to get involved but don't know how. A quick share of this podcast can do wonders for people as they're working through their lives and figuring out how they want to give back. Well, team, that's it for me. Let's go out in the world and create good with the money in our pockets today, this week, next hour, whatever that looks like. And let's do that together. Talk soon.